Okay, Assalamualaikum, and again, we're going to continue our discussion, presenting slide. Okay, so this is a part two, Southeast Asia political structure. So in this chapter, we're going to discuss about political structure in terms of what actually being implemented by the state all over the Southeast Asia, and we focus on the democracy first. Democracy, it is one of the success, okay, political structure. We look at the end, by the end of Cold War, when democracy win and the socialists lost, okay. By that, uh, the state system become democracy, and most of the Soviet state being changed, regime change, and it also affect South Asia. And what is democracy? Democracy is about the participation. For example, they have system party, and the competition is is a good competitions. You know, and protect civil and also political rights. That's why we have human rights. We have law. We have act. When okay, the next will be the authoritarianism, which is the Monarch System. One or small group of individual exercise power over the state. For example, in Brunei, you can see Brunei is a tourism ruled by monarch. The government constitutions. Government is not constitutionally responsible to the public. Public has little or no role in selecting leaders because leaders being hand over to the for the generations. Can see the monarch system in Malaysia also, and several limits of individual and prison. They have their own act, prohibit and non prohibit. The kinds of terrorism that, that are in the world, for example, uh, personal rule by, for example, if you look at Saudi, uh, and military rule. We have military rule, for example, in Cambodia, eh, when the general become the prime minister. For example, Thailand, one party rule. You can see one party system. For example, they have. For example, you can look at the CCP. Okay, China Communist Party. They are one party system, but they have election. If you want to become a nominee, you have to join the CCP. You appointed as a uh, member of CCP, then only you can join the, the election. And then that is what we call one party system. They have theocracy and also liberal regimes also. Okay, source of democracy and authoritarianism in South Asia, for example, as I said, their culture explanations. You look at uh, the uniqueness of ASEAN itself, the diversity that cultivate the the political structure as well as economic explanations. If you look at the democracy state, in South Asia, most democracy state are developed and also progress state, while the socialist state will be a reserve state because first they don't want much uh, join to expose uh, their state well. For example, if you look at the membership of the communist state, you look at North Korea, for example, kalau in ASEAN, the Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. But Vietnam are going progressive, but Laos and Cambodia, they more being reserved rather than Vietnam. Okay. Culture explanation for democracy. Western culture is somehow well suited for democracy. Many scholars say because they don't have culture. The culture, Western culture are just same. They don't have the unique, the religion bound to the administrations, and because of its individualism and also non-hierarchical social structure, and also Western are more to have a spirit of capitalism. Yeah, the laissez-faire, and it actually already absorbed in the Western culture itself. So, but in concept of ASEAN more or less they are bound, although they're bound with culture, but yet they're also bound to the religions, and that's why ASEAN organizations and EU organizations are different, far different. EU are focusing on economic purpose, but yet ASEAN we are focusing on to help each other. So that's why the foreign policy, Malaysian foreign policy, uh, we actually initiate a prosperity neighbor policy to help and also to prosper our neighbor. We wanted our neighbor to become same as we are in terms of successful in economy, diversity culture, um, good technology state, because when all of our members are developed, we can reduce what we call the conflict as well as the crisis. We have a lot of crises, right? So this is what actually the idea and also the formations of ASEAN is a far different rather than the EU itself. For example, if you look at ASEAN Community 2015, they have come out with three perspectives, which is they wanted to strengthen the security, and they wanted to strengthen the economy as well. They wanted to strengthen the social structure and also the lifestyle. So that's why we are helping each other in ASEAN. Well, this one I already told you in the first video about ASEAN value, which is being initiated by our Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, as well as the Singapore former Prime Minister, says that we ASEAN we have our own values, which is we are loyal to the family. We more community over individual, right? For example, if you stay in village, we more community, the development and security over individual rights. We more consensus over majority rules. For example, in ASEAN also, to be part of ASEAN member, all uh, state have to recognize and have to agree. For example, uh, we wanted to appoint new member. All of the former member have to agree that new member can join. Then only the new member can join. This also reflect what actually happened uh, to the Istimo. Until now, Istimo can't be a member of ASEAN organization because Indonesia not recognize Istimo as a uh, is Indonesia not allowed East Timor to become member of ASEAN. If Indonesia allowed, so uh, this doesn't matter. It will be a good effort, and then the member of Southeast Asia becoming increasing. And we also feel the importance of the social harmony. So this is what values the ASEAN have. We bound with culture, traditions, as well as religion that actually shape what it ASEAN are, what ASEAN are right now. Okay, the ASEAN value debate. Most of Westerns feel that uh, ASEAN value is too too complex. Okay, but because we cannot actually uh, combine culture with demonstration. We cannot combine culture, the region throughout the political structure. So this is actually being debate by the scholars, Western scholars, and also the the ASEAN scholars. So Western the case that that's why Western always justify that ASEAN is a slow growth of economy because they have to think a lot of everything. Uh, but Western mainly focusing on after the end of Cold War, they actually focus on the development of the economic purpose. So that's why purpose of EU itself is about to protect the European state being bankrupt because most of EU state during the Cold War and then during the regimes, for example, Joseph Tito regimes. So they being ruled by the superpower, and then when they become being released by the superpower, and the insecurity actually had affected them, so they can't uh, stand alone, develop their economic purpose. So that's why they all initiate what we call as European Union. So if let's say the state can't do well in terms of economy, the EU might help them. This case refer to the Greece state, for example. Greece states already justify as a bankrupt state, but yet until now they survive because of the EU purpose. Okay, problem with ASEAN values, plenty of ASEAN dissenters, more and more ASEAN democracy, for example, Korean, Taiwan, Philippines, Indonesia, says that uh, it's, it actually, uh, you know, build a good, the fear factor towards the communist state in Southeast Asia. Okay, but yet for example, we always call Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia as a CLV. So the CLV state, but in terms of ASEAN, the CLV state sees that ASEAN is not going to take advantage on them. ASEAN respect them as a sovereign state, sovereign socialist state, and the non-interference purpose being brought out and being implemented by the ASEAN, and it actually helped to recover their feelings, and the acceptance of the socialist state to join the ASEAN. Culture diversity and ASEAN values suggest that all ASEAN have something in common, but Southeast Asia is diverse in culture. So authoritarianism arises because of this diversity. If you look at the uniqueness, for example, the culture diversity, we have a lot of ethnic. The culture actually wanted to cultivate in in the decision making to the state. So that's why ASEAN feel that the rise of this authoritarianism because of the diversity. Economic factor, there always a relationship between economic growth and also democracy and also authoritarianism. Uh, and also, rich countries tend to be more democratic if you look at the ASEAN itself. Okay, so less developed state, as I said before, the development of the state, it actually reflect on the ideology itself. Okay, for example, if you look at Southeast Asia, which country are more developed? For example, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, of course, Brunei, and Vietnam. So, Vietnam, not really, but okay lah. Okay, but most of the country, uh, for example, this country, if you look at Western, yeah lah, American, Britain, France, they are more rich country. So, economic explanation, this country are tend to be democratic. Why? Because they actually uh, absorb the purpose of the democracy itself. For example, the idea of organization, the idea of making friends, the idea of uh, you know prosper. If you look at reverse back, you look at the idea of democracy itself. Okay, the idea of participation, the competitions, the political rights. It actually helps to develop their state itself. Also, the spirit of capitalism also. So that driven the their economic become more well. Okay. So middle class democracy. Richer countries have capitalist middle class. Okay. In in every democracy state, they have middle class. Most of the state, the middle class is a decision maker. For example, in UK, the most of member of Senate is a middle class people. They are the game changing in the in the political structure, as well as in Malaysia. If you look at Malaysia also, the mid M40, we call it M40. We have P40, M40, and T20. Middle class people actually dominate, dominate and also influence the state. Why? Middle class is more educated, able to articulate and also interest in political rights. Okay, and some question, this is just uh, quote, they quote that no middle class, no democracy. If more middle class, the state will be more democracy. Okay, you can just look at the scholar, for example, Moore and Brinton, 1966, says that social origin of dictatorship and democracy lot and present in making the modern world. You can see the book, okay. And then another one is social origin, dictatorship, democracy, colonial state, and also Chinese immigrant in the making of modern Southeast Asia. Just can refer. Okay, and the rise of middle class in itself does not guarantee democracy. It is determined by the degree of vigor and independence of the country enjoys. Okay, if you look at this is, for example, the Karl Marx. Karl Marx class struggle already stated that they have, you know, the bourgeois and also the proletarian. Okay, so the bourgeois country means the colonial power and the proletarian, and it actually affected uh, the middle class country. Okay, and if you can look at the the middle class structure, okay, Burma, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, they have no middle class. Singapore and also Brunei depend on middle class, whereas Malaysia and Thailand and Philippines is assimilated middle class. This means uh, the developed state, they are more depends on middle class, and less developed state, they are more depends on the bourgeois, ataupun, or we call it as the elites. Maybe the middle class are contingent Democrats. In other words, they will join when it suits them, and they will ally when other sector, such as the working class. How do we understand the Philippines, or how do we understand Singapore? Right. So if you look at Singapore itself, okay, most they are much more middle class. Middle class has actually driven the economy, driven the politics, and the structures of political in the Singapore, it actually shaping by the middle class and also the Philippines. So that's why uh, the the middle class factor actually brought up the democracy in Singapore, and also it driven Singapore to become what they are right now. Okay, supply side agreement. So some argue that it is about the elites. As I said before, elites play a big role in actually, for example, in every state in Southeast Asia, elite play a big role to make the state independence. For example, Malaysia, it is, now after the 2008, you can see the political structure become more middle class, join, and also um, become the policy maker in the government itself. The elitists being shallow, and regime change when there is elite disunity. Regime are stable when the elite is unity. And you can see William, okay, in terms of for more additional finding. Okay, so regime change when there is, for example, if elite not unity, so it actually will harm the political structure. For example, what actually happened in changing the government. Okay, it is because of the elite factor. When elite are unity, the regimes are stable. Okay, you can look at Thailand itself, Malaysia itself as experience this year. The Philippines, the Thailand, the Indonesia, when elites struggle, it actually will affect the political structure. Okay, so this democracy, you can democracy Philippines, Thailand, semi-democracy, Singapore, Malaysia, we call it semi-democracy because we have constitutions bound as monarchy constitutions. Okay, procedural democracy is Indonesians, and hard tutorial, is it Brunei? Is it Myanmar? But now Myanmar is going to become uh, now they are procedural democracy are going to become semi-democracy. Okay, so that's all my presentations for this chapter, and thank you for your hearing, and I hope that you understand. If you don't understand, I will put some additional support material in Google Classroom. You might uh, view it, or maybe you can just Google at it if you don't understand. Okay, so thank you for your attentions, and see you in the next session. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.